There's something inherently comical about criminals messing up. It's like watching a cartoon villain trip over a banana peel. We laugh, not because we condone crime, but because the absurdity is just too much. And it happens in real life, folks. Robbers, despite their best, well, worst intentions, sometimes pick the wrong targets. Take for instance the story of the would-be robber who decided to target a seemingly defenseless elderly lady. He probably imagined her as an easy mark, someone who wouldn't put up a fight. Little did he know this granny was a retired wrestling champion. You can guess how that turned out. Let's just say he went home with a bruised ego and a newfound respect for senior citizens. Then there was the group of teenagers who attempted to carjack a vehicle only to realize, mid-heist, that they were trying to steal from an off-duty police officer. Talk about bad luck. Or maybe just a severe lack of observation skills. The officer, understandably surprised, apprehended the youngsters, no doubt giving them a stern talking to about making better life choices. These stories, while amusing, highlight a crucial point. Crime doesn't always pay, especially when you fail to do your due diligence. It's a good reminder that sometimes the universe has a funny way of setting things straight. One of the most common blunders in the Robber's Handbook is the case of mistaken identity. You see, not all that glitters is gold, and sometimes a seemingly easy target turns out to be anything but. There was this incident where a robber, dressed in all black, decided to target a martial arts studio. He probably thought it would be an easy in-and-out job. Maybe he missed the part where people in martial arts studios learn how to defend themselves. The result? Let's just say he became the practice dummy for a room full of very enthusiastic and slightly annoyed martial artists. And then there's the classic case of the robber who tried to hold up a police officer in disguise. You'd think that with all the cop shows on TV, criminals would be able to spot an undercover officer. Apparently not. This particular robber learned the hard way that sometimes the toughest-looking customers are the ones there to uphold the law. These incidents, while funny in retrospect, serve as cautionary tales for aspiring criminals. Not that we're encouraging that sort of thing. It's a clear sign that when it comes to crime, assumptions can lead to some very embarrassing, not to mention painful outcomes. You know what they say, knowledge is power, and in the world of crime, a lack of knowledge can be downright hilarious. There have been instances where robbers, in their infinite wisdom, targeted places that, well, made them look rather silly. Take, for example, the story of the robbers who decided to hit a blood bank. You know, the place where people donate blood, not cash. One can only imagine their faces when they realized their mistake. It's like trying to rob a library for oranges. Then there's the story of the robbers who broke into a police station. Not just any police station, mind you, but a police station that was hosting a self-defense class for senior citizens. Needless to say, their attempt at a daring heist turned into a masterclass on what not to do when breaking and entering. These stories highlight a common thread. Perhaps a little research goes a long way in the world of crime. Or better yet, maybe just stick to legal ways of making a living. Pickpocketing, the supposed art of subtly relieving unsuspecting individuals of their valuables. It sounds simple enough, but as with any profession, it requires a certain level of skill and, dare we say, intelligence. Sadly, not all aspiring pickpockets receive the memo. There's the classic case of the pickpocket who targeted a magician. Now you'd think someone whose livelihood depends on sleight of hand would be the last person you'd want to try that with. This particular thief found out the hard way, ending up not only caught, but also thoroughly humiliated in front of a crowd. Then there's the story of the pickpocket who attempted to steal from a plainclothes police officer. You know, the ones who are specifically trained to spot and apprehend criminals like our light-fingered friend? Let's just say he picked the wrong pocket on the wrong day, and ended up with a free ride in the back of a police car. These stories serve as a valuable lesson, pun intended, for anyone considering a career in petty theft. Maybe find a different hobby, like knitting. It's less likely to land you in jail. They say what goes around comes around, and in the world of crime, karma can be a real, stickler for the rules. There are countless stories of robbers who, through sheer incompetence or bad luck, end up being the victims of their own ill-conceived plans. Take, for instance, the story of the robber who tried to make a getaway on foot. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, not if you trip over a carelessly discarded banana peel and sprain your ankle. As he lay there waiting for the police to arrive, one can only imagine he had plenty of time to reflect on his life choices. And then there's the tale of the robber who successfully made off with a purse only to discover it belonged to a nurse. And not just any nurse, but a nurse who specialized in, you guessed it, treating criminals who had suffered unfortunate accidents. Let's just say he received swift and ironic justice, albeit with a side of antiseptic and a bandage. These stories serve as a reminder that sometimes the universe has a funny way of balancing the scales. It's a comforting thought, knowing that even when criminals seem to get away with it, karma might just be waiting around the corner with a well-timed banana peel. Section 6. Quotes from the Not-So-Mean Streets. To add insult to self-inflicted injury, sometimes the most amusing commentary on these criminal misadventures comes from the mouths of the perpetrators themselves. Police reports and news articles often contain gems of unintentional humor, capturing the sheer bewilderment and, dare we say, naivete of these would-be masterminds. "I didn't think the dog would actually bite," whined one suspect after attempting to rob a house, only to be thwarted by the resident canine. Apparently the concept of guard dogs was lost on this particular individual. "I thought the money was in the other register," complained another after holding up a convenience store, only to make off with a handful of pennies. One can only imagine the cashier's amusement as they watched him flee, his ill-gotten gains jingling pathetically in his pocket. These quotes, while amusing, highlight the disconnect between the perceived glamour of crime and the often hilarious reality. It's a good reminder that crime in real life is rarely as glamorous as it's portrayed in the movies, and more often than not, it ends with a whimper, not a bang. Section 7. To err is human, to get caught is hilarious. Let's face it, everyone makes mistakes. It's part of what makes us human. But there's something particularly amusing about criminals who mess up in such a spectacular fashion that it borders on slapstick. It's like watching a live-action version of Home Alone, only instead of booby traps, it's their own incompetence that brings them down. Take for instance the story of the robber who tried to make his getaway by blending in with a crowd of people dressed as clowns. Now we're all for a good disguise, but one has to wonder about the thought process here. Did he really think he wouldn't stand out? Then there's the case of the robber who, in his haste to flee the scene of the crime, accidentally left his wallet on the counter. You know, the one with his driver's license and a recent selfie proudly displayed? Talk about a rookie mistake. It's almost as if they wanted to be caught. These stories serve as a reminder that crime, despite its often serious consequences, can sometimes be downright hilarious. It's a testament to the fact that even in the darkest of situations, there's always room for a little laughter. Section 8. Why planning and common sense matters. A common theme running through these tales of criminal misfortune is a distinct lack of planning. It seems many aspiring criminals skip the thinking things through stage of their ill-conceived plans, leading to some truly head-scratching decisions. Take, for example, the robber who attempted to break into a car by smashing the window with a watermelon. Not only was this ineffective, watermelons, it turns out, are surprisingly durable, but it also attracted the attention of several passers-by, who promptly alerted the authorities. Then there's the story of the robbers who decided to rob a bank, on the day the town was holding its annual salute to law enforcement parade. One can only imagine their surprise when they found themselves surrounded by police officers, all enjoying a lovely day off. These stories highlight the importance of a good plan, or at the very least, a basic understanding of common sense. It's a valuable lesson for anyone considering a life of crime. Perhaps stick to Sudoku or crossword puzzles. They're far less likely to land you in hot water. Section 9. Crime, don't try this at home, especially not like this. In conclusion, the world of crime, while often portrayed as dark and gritty, has its fair share of comedic relief. From robbers targeting the wrong people, to criminals leaving a trail of clues worthy of a Scooby-Doo episode, these stories remind us that sometimes, truth is stranger and funnier than fiction. So, the next time you're feeling down, just remember these tales of criminal incompetence. They're a lighthearted reminder that even in the face of adversity, there's always room for a little laughter. And remember, crime doesn't pay, especially when you're not very good at it.